Hello, I'm Tom Hier, and welcome to the Aloud podcast. This is the home with big voices and even bigger journeys. Only Boys Aloud is so much more than just a choir. It is a launchpad. I'm going to be chatting with standout alumni, current OBA members, and inspiring creatives, sharing the stories, the graft, and the moments that take voices from Wales to world-class stages. Let's get into it. Right, in this powerful and heartfelt episode, Aloud creative director Craig Yates opens up about his journey of singing. From a shy young singer in South Wales to performing with Only Men Aloud on Last Choir Standing, and now leading Only Boys Aloud and Only Voices Aloud to inspire the next generation. He also speaks candidly about his own experiences with mental health, the pressures of performance, and how singing has always been a source of healing and strength. Listen now to hear how Craig and the Aloud charity are transforming lives one voice at a time. Craig Yates, welcome to the Aloud podcast. It's great to see you. I can't remember the last time I saw you.
It's been too long. Thank you for having me.
This podcast is celebrating Only Boys Aloud, something that has been so close to my heart, and so many of my generation feel old saying that. But it's so obvious to me about the benefit because I'm living proof of it, and we all are. And you'll hear on this podcast about that, and we are so passionate about the things that we did, the things that are still happening, and how we can kind of future-proof this and share this with the world to ensure that it continues for the next generation. You have a pivotal part in that. You are creative director right now. And it's evident for me to see now how lucky they are to have role models like yourself leading this ship, right? We've also worked together in all manners of things, but what I want to start off with is your story from the very beginning. Where was your impetus for music and singing? And what I aim to do in this next kind of 20 minutes is go from that point all the way to where we are now. So I think that's just like really important to start from where you started from.
Thank you. It's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey over the last 45 years, goodness me. Yeah, I'm told by my parents that I sang before I spoke. My grandma was having a birthday party. They were singing happy birthday, and I just larred some kind of happy birthday tune. So singing was always part of my life from that very early moment as being a baby. I sang. A very musical family. My grandfather was a conductor of a male voice choir, which is amazing. That's a lot of what I am today, I think. My dad sang in that male voice choir. My mum was a singer. My sister plays French horn still and was very musical as well. She went down the maths route though, probably wisely. And I kind of got into the position where that's all I wanted to do, was to be a singer, to do music. I loved it. I loved singing. I loved singing as a kid. On my 7th birthday, I ran into my mum and dad's room and said, "I'm 7, I can have a singing lesson." Because that was apparently the magical age that you could start having a singing lesson.
Love that.
No idea why. And I did. And I was a very good treble. I was choir boy of the year at the age of 13. Then the dreaded voice change, and you never know what kind of voice you're going to have. We've all been through that, and that's something I deal with on a daily basis today with the young people we work with. And then I continued. My voice was all right. I went to music college and got on the journey of trying to be a professional singer. So, and then obviously setting up Only Boys Aloud on that route of singing as well. So yeah, music has just been part of my life, all of my life. I don't know what I would do without music. I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah. And I was there at the beginning of Only Boys Aloud, and one of the things that I just remember was so, I guess, magical for me, and when I speak to kind of those boys, is you were part of Only Men Aloud, right? The group that won BBC's Last Choir Standing in 2008. That was transformational, wasn't it? Because you were a male voice choir from Wales that were, let's just speak obviously, young, fit, cool, could move, could sing unbelievably well in your own right individually, and collectively the sound you created was very different to whatever happened before. There's no wonder you won Last Choir Standing, because you were the best choir that, in my eyes, had ever happened.
No one had really seen anything like it. I mean, I think the testament of how good we were at that point is what's happened since.
Yeah.
That choirs have become quite fashionable again, and all of the Gareth Malone choir and all the TV shows and the series that have happened since. I think testament to the BBC putting on a reality show for choirs. I mean, that's weird. I mean, you wouldn't thought that would be a thing to do, and especially in a prime time Saturday night, it was a really brave thing to do. And we thought long, and it was just around that time when reality TV was just kind of happening, and we thought long and hard whether it was a good thing to do, because it could just change our lives, ruin our lives, make our lives better.
It's a risk, I guess.
It's a complete risk. You're always in the hands of a TV company portraying how they want to portray you. So we had a long chat. We didn't know enough about there was no social media then as well, which is really bizarre to say. God, I sound very old. But that was the point where we had to just put our lives, our trust into the BBC and to see how we were going to be portrayed. We weren't exciting enough for them. They wanted all these stories. We're at a time where they wanted an interesting story from each member. Is this person from this background or that background? So we were a bit boring. We just were. But we could sing beautifully and we perform beautifully. And I think that gave us the legacy to do what we did. And it was at that point that Tim and some of the members of Only Men Allowed thought, this is the opportunity to create Only Boys Allowed, and that's what we did. Thankfully, we had some funding to do it. It was meant to be that just one-off performance in Ebbw Vale. We went round probably most schools in South Wales, but because we were members of Only Men Allowed, we had that public profile. We went, we sang. I'll never forget just standing in front of an assembly or a group of students and singing, and the just surprise on their faces and the joy of hearing that live music, which a lot of them hadn't heard before, especially from kind of young men singing as well, was great. And that's why we had that pull, and that's why we managed to get 140 members of Only Boys Allowed.
Yeah, and it's so amazing to hear you speak from that point of view, because from our point of view, you were celebrities. We'd seen you on television win this competition. Then you were setting up a boys version for it. Oh my God, and it's in my rugby club down the road. And when we would go to the rugby club, you were there. I don't think you all quite understood that. You were celebrities to us. And, I remember vividly coming to watch you in one of your massive tours, Christmas tours, in the ICC arenas. And it was sold out. And I remember watching you all live, seeing Wyn, seeing Paul, Tim Rhys-Evans, David George Harrington on the piano, I think. You were absolutely unbelievable, and that was part of the, I think, inspiration to people like me, is that at that point I was already interested in music and singing. But and for me, I was like, I want to do that. How can I do that? Well, I can do it on a Thursday in Merthyr Rugby Club, and then we performed at the Yates.
It's really interesting. We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, genuinely, we didn't. We'd never done anything like this before. We were just a group of performers standing on stage performing to a good standard. We didn't feel like pop stars. We didn't feel like we had much pull.
Sure.
To be honest, we just loved what we did.
I love that, because clearly you did, but there's something quite authentic about that.
Completely. We didn't know how to set up a charity. We didn't know how to set up a choir. Let's just go and try and do this and try and get this next generation of singers. So we did. And the fact that we could be that's really kind of you to say, be that kind of inspirational figures just shows what we had then and what we're still trying to struggle with today. I think we haven't got that. We're not Only Men Allowed aren't on telly as much as we were. We just found that right. Everything kind of fitted at the right time.
But I think the original reason for it, if I'm right, and you can correct me on this, is it was obvious that certainly in the South Wales valleys, singing for boys wasn't cool, was it? And I think that's something that I've heard you when Tim Rhys-Evans say, and it's probably online already about that, is that it was almost like breaking the stigma. Girls sang. They were choirs. They were male voice choirs, but they were generally older gentlemen in suits.
Boys, it wasn't cool for boys to sing. If you looked at any mixed choir, you'd have 80-90% female voices and that's still the same today, really. It's still, that hasn't particularly changed. Male voice choirs, men in suits, unfortunately a thing for the retiree. I mean, industry has changed massively, and obviously choirs and brass bands were all linked with industry in South Wales, especially. Every pit had a choir, every steelworks, copperworks had that's why it's changed so much. It was a community thing. So that's what we were battling with. But it wasn't cool for boys to sing. And I think the one of the biggest journeys we ever saw with OBA. Yes, we started with the Eisteddfod. That should have been a one-off concert. But then suddenly we felt this can go somewhere. We had the momentum to take it forward, and we did, and we went. And then the next opportunity that came up, of course, was our own bit of reality TV with Britain's Got Talent, which was the most bonkers time, but it was brilliant. And again, we had that long conversation about what reality TV can do, and would we be seen as positive? They tried very hard to get stories out of us, and there were some very famous clips online of like, there are people taking drugs on the streets who have joined a choir and stuff like that. And it's like, it wasn't reality, but it could have been for some of those boys. Sure. You know, it really could have been. So we felt we had that pressure, and we had this position that we could have changed things. The other thing, of course, is the demise of the male voice choir in Wales. Today we're seeing very famous male voice choirs stopping because they haven't got the numbers and stuff. And me growing up, as I said, with my grandfather conducting a choir, that was very much part of me. It wasn't in Wales, but it was outside Birmingham. But I know what that community feeling, what that group of being in a choir can do. So we wanted to try and inspire some young people, just get them interested. And if they can join their local male voice choir and reduce their average age, then suddenly we've got a bit of something in the future to look forward to as well.
What would you say to someone who sees Only Boys Allowed? They see that it's still running, but is unsure whether they should join? I
always say give it a go. Because I think the moment we get them through the door, they get it. They get the magic. I think we all get that magic as choir leaders, as members. The moment you get them through the door and they take part in that rehearsal, they get it. And our retention rate is phenomenal. You know, people that come very rarely leave, you know. So, you know, they leave when they go to university, or we've got people that shouldn't be in it. They're too old, but they don't want to leave. You know, that's just the part. It's a little bit like me, like, you know, just a part of it. I'm retained in some way, you know. Completely. I was in it from the original, and now we're back here discussing why, you know. And a great group of alumni as well. I mean, you're part of it. You know, other people that have set this up are part of it, and they're so passionate about what we did. You know, their lives. A lot of what they're doing, I'm not saying solely down to Only Boys Allowed, but I think I see a lot of people, I run into a lot of people in the streets who have been part of Only Boys Allowed, and they go, it's because of the experiences I had, you know, the confidence it brought, not just people who are performing now, but people who are teachers, people who are scientists, people who are doctors. They say it's because of the skills I learned in Only Boys Allowed, changed them so much as a person over the time, that it's down to what they did then, that they're doing what they're doing now, which is phenomenal, really phenomenal. And how do you do that? How did you do that? Because I'm living proof of it, and we've talked about it on every episode so far, and I have not prompted anyone to say it. Everyone's made a big conversation about the importance of everything outside of singing. It's more than a choir, it's more than music, it's more than that. It's about the life skills, the training. It's a completely life skill, and I think, and that's still very much evident today. I mean, we all run our rehearsals slightly differently, but we're very well trained in the organisation that what we want to get from it. So everyone has to be on time. There's a certain level of behaviour within it. You know, we don't want to be school teachers, but we want people just to. That's a really important thing. We don't want people to come into school environment, but we want people to learn. We want people to have fun. We want people to learn about music without knowing they're learning music, which I think is really interesting. But also just learning how to be themselves. Giving them a safe place to be, finding their tribe, finding their group of people they want to be around, and just finding themselves, I think, is the biggest thing that I think we've done in Only Boys Allowed. And then giving them these unbelievable performance opportunities, showing them that where they're from, if they're from somewhere where they think there's not much hope or not much confidence in their lives, that we can go, yeah, you can do this, and we've given them this platform to shine. You know, some of the things we've done over the last 15 years have been unbelievable. And if you ask some of these boys, you know, have you ever had an experience like that or an opportunity to do something like that? Absolutely not. You know, just that's life-changing things that we don't think at the time are probably going to be life-changing. You look back in a few years' time and you go, oh, wow. I'm where I am now because I did that. And I know there's a big wide world out there. I think that's really important as well. Absolutely. And I could reel off some of the achievements that I was part of. You know, Britain's Got Talent, Buckingham Palace, recording an album with Sony, going abroad, Principality Stadium, Ryder Cup, you know, that's 6, ridiculous. Right? Yeah. And it costs nothing. Completely. And that's something we've got to always remind ourselves, you know, we're giving thousands and thousands of boys over the last 15 years this opportunity to change their lives, to have these incredible experiences for absolutely no cost at all. It's amazing.
You've helped, Only Boys Allowed has helped over 6,500 young people
Amazing.
Have access to this opportunity or atmosphere, right? So you said there about, it's easy for people to go, I want to be part of that because I want to sing in the Principality Stadium. And quite right. I want to be part of this choir because I want to make friends or whatever, right? So there's a different reasons for why people want to join. Out of those 6,500, which is a lot of people, isn't it?
It is.
How many people do you think are, of the people you said there, are maybe a bit unsure and join because they think it might be a good idea, but they take some time? Because I think there's an idea that you see these wonderful achievements Only Boys Allowed do. And I think there's potentially an idea that people are too worried because they think they might have to be that way.
Completely. It's difficult to get these new people in because when we put these new shiny videos up of the boys singing, we've just been to Japan and there've been some beautiful performances of them singing in Japan, which were amazing. But then I don't want that to put people off because I don't want, a shy 12-year-old going, oh, I'm not that good. I couldn't go and do that. So we've got to kind of balance the message of, yes, it's exceptional and we can get to that exceptional level of performance, but also just come along and try it and just come along and see if you like it. Because that might be you one day. I think that's what you've always got to think. If you're going to come along and it's fine to come and sit at the back and not sing, but then in 4 years' time, yes, you might be traveling the world with us as well. So it's very hard to get the right message, I think, across.
I think the common denominator with everyone who is involved with Aloud, including, I'm putting myself in that bracket just for this podcast at least, and as an alumni, is the passion. And that filters down, When you are young, 13, 14, 15, or younger, especially in the South Wales valleys where you are impressionable and in a good and bad way, you don't know who you are.
No.
You need good role models to model behaviour in situations and out. So for me, it was clear, and I remember this, seeing all of you as Only Men Allowed kind of role models for us and then became our team leaders. To see you in action on stage and off with us and without was really influential because, I'm a 50% teacher now. I act and I teach at Guildford School of Acting. So 50% of the time I have a teaching hat on. I am a role model to the next generation.
Yeah.
And I've written academic documents about this. The kind of leader I want to be is the leader that you were to us. Now that's quite incredible because that was only because of Only Boys Allowed. If I wasn't in Only Boys Allowed, I'm not sure I would have had access to those kind of role models,
I think at the time we didn't realise what we were doing. I think that's what's really interesting. As I say, we set it up without any knowledge. We knew we could sing. We knew we could be good on stage and we had a nice fan following. But could we go and influence people? Could we teach people? We didn't know how to teach. We'd never done anything like that before. I'd done a little bit. I'd started out, I had to diversify a little bit as a singer, because singing was great, but I loved teaching, I loved conducting, I loved working with community groups. So I'd done a bit of it, but there were lots of other members in Only Men Allowed who had done nothing at all. They just knew how to sing. Yes, we can go and sing in front of a school and sing. That's a given. That's easy. But I think then to kind of pass those skills on and learn new skills, to teach and inspire this group of 30 teenage boys in a Valleys rugby club. I mean, that's not a thing you want to do really, without knowing what to do. So we did throw ourselves in completely at the deep end. We had a couple of days training with some, that was it. And we went, right, go and teach these songs. And we properly learnt on the job. So yes, we were inspiring for you and that's amazing. But I think we were all learning together at the same time. You were learning how to be in a choir. We were learning how to inspire and how to teach a choir. So yeah, we just had to do it and we did it, and then one of the proudest moments of my life, I think, was that Eisteddfod concert where you all came on stage and there were 140 of you and we'd worked for 5 months, I think, teaching you these 3 songs and we did it. And we stood there as OMA, but with 140 of you behind us. And it was just and the crowd went wild. It was just amazing. And that's something I'll never forget.
One of the most amazing moments of my life. Is there anything that surprised you about Only Boys Allowed?
The fact it happened, the fact it was so successful still surprises me now. There were rehearsals at the very start where no one came to. We were followed by a TV crew, we were followed by radio, and we tried our best. We tried our best to start this choir, and the fact that we had 140 boys on that stage in that first, I mean, that shouldn't have happened. I mean, it was amazing. It did. That to this very day surprises me that it happened, and thank God it did, because it's been such a journey since then. And we've been through our trials and tribulations. We've been through COVID. We've been through financial issues. I say to people now, I work in the arts and I work for a charity. That's two things that are hard at the moment. With the funding issues and everything that we've been through the past few years. But the fact we're still going, the fact that we're still fighting, the fact that we've got such an amazing group of teachers still, choir leaders. The fact that we've got a great group of boys now as well is just brilliant. Testament to the hard work that we do every day.
Yeah, and people can, fundraising and charity stuff is different now to it was 15 years ago. But people can help in all sorts of ways, right? Some donation can help fund transport to a boys' rehearsal, or a bus to a performance at the Principality Stadium,
Completely.
or a airport ticket to enable an extra boy to be able to go to Japan.
Absolutely. Cost of living has gone, as we all know, has gone sky high. But it's all the little incidentals of running an organisation like Only Boys Aloud. It's an expensive beast, because we pay our choir leaders to go and inspire and teach and be brilliant with these boys, but everything else is expensive. Life has become expensive, so to offer something for free is unheard of still, really. But we want to make it open access. We want to make sure anyone can come, whatever background they're from, if they can sing or if they can't sing, just come and give it a go. There's no charge for you. We don't want any costs for you at all. We want them to look good, so we'll pay for their T-shirts and shirts and ties, and so we want to make sure it's completely open access to every single person. So any kind of donation that anyone can afford to give is great. I think the one of the downsides of being associated with Only Men Aloud, let's go there, is that I think a lot of people think Only Men Aloud are some rich millionaire group. That's the other thing.
I think say that again and say it without the thing, because I think it's right.
I think one of the hard things of Only Boys Aloud being a charity, that we've always been associated with Only Men Aloud. Now,
which is a great thing.
But I think financially people assume members of Only Men Aloud are multi-millionaires and we signed £1 million record deals, and we absolutely didn't. My goodness me, we didn't. We got paid for the concerts that we did, not very much. We did it for the love of it, for a lot of it. We had a great time. Experiences-wise, we had an amazing time in Only Men Aloud, but none of us have been able to retire from it, I can absolutely assure you. And I think the association that, because we started Only Boys Aloud back then, that it didn't need money because it was being funded by Only Men Aloud. But quite soon we separated the two companies off because we needed to make Only Boys Aloud a registered charity, which is why the Aloud charity started, and that's why I still think that stigma still hangs around today. We are two completely separate organisations now. Yes, I'm a singer in Only Men Aloud.
Yes,
and I work for the Aloud charity, but we are two completely different organisations. One is a charity, it has a board, it has staff, full-time staff, and that's our job, is to run the Aloud charity and give these young people amazing opportunities. Only Men Aloud now just perform. That's it. That's what we do. So I think that's been a problem over the years, and I think it still is a problem now, because people think, well, Only Men Aloud, they're on TV, they're rich,
Yes.
they don't need the money. But absolutely couldn't be further from the truth. The Aloud charity is its own entity. We have to fundraise, we have to raise money, we have to get grants, we have to get trusts and foundations to raise money. It's an expensive beast, because we want to give as many people as we can the opportunity to be part of it.
That's really interesting, and it's something I'd never really contemplated. But there's an also added thing to that, is that I think because Only Boys Aloud on its own did so well as well, had high profile, went on television, Britain's Got Talent, did some of the most incredible venues that were public. So millions of people knew and know what Only Boys Aloud was. I think even just because of that, they don't know that it's potentially a charity, and they don't know that actually it requires a lot of sponsorship to be able to happen. That's the only reason they happened in the first place. It certainly wasn't because of Only Men Aloud's success, of why it was able to carry on. Completely. It was because of sponsorship.
Completely. I mean, we've been incredibly lucky with some big organisations that have helped us be here. Principality Building Society being one, that we would not be here now without them. The money they gave us each year, incredibly grateful for them, and to all the other companies and trusts and foundations that have supported us over the years and continue to do so. But there were times when we couldn't afford to pay a bus to go to London for Britain's Got Talent. You know, it looked like it was all showbiz and everyone was looking beautiful and everyone was on stage ready, prepared. But in the office, we were there. We've got to somehow pay for this coach.
I think that's really important for people to know.
So that's the other side of it, which people don't think. Only Men Aloud signed a multi-million-pound 5-album record deal with Decca. In reality, what that means is until we sell enough albums to pay back, that we don't get any money at all. So they will they pay for the album. Yes, they pay for the recording of the album. But until we start selling millions and millions of pounds worth of album, we don't get any money from that recording at all.
Is there something deeper in being part of a choir or organisation like Only Boys Allowed for boys/men?
Yeah, I mean, there's been many studies that men like talking to their mates next to each other. Women, I think, can sit down at a table and talk to each other and face each other.
Yeah.
I think the kind of stuff that men do, watch sport together, it's a very sexist comment, women do it as well, but men sit down side to side and that's when they open up and talk to each other. If they're watching the telly, if they're watching live sport, if they're in a choir, I think that's a really important thing to know, that if we weren't looking at each other and we'd have a chat, we'd probably open up more than if I was staring at you and like other people can do. So I think being in a choir is that as well. It's knowing you with your mates, it's knowing you with people who've got your back. You're sat next to them. It's quite tribal as well. You know, you're fighting the same thing. It's teamwork, and I think people do open up to each other, kind of in that side to side environment, which is really important. And I think for mental health, I know the power that being in a group can do. People that struggle with their mental health, the power of music for that, I think, is incredible. You know, it really is. It just takes you somewhere else. You're with people who are going through the same things, going through the same experience in life. You can open up to them. You find new friends. You find friends for life, and then you have amazing experiences which you can forget what you're going through.
100%. And I think further on that, it's a tough old world. Like, it's a different world growing up now, as anybody, but certainly as a teenager now, with the internet, social media,
Completely.
The influences of that, that is a challenge, right?
I wouldn't want to grow up now. I mean, I've got a 7-year-old, and I dread the time she has a phone. I dread the time she's on social media. So I wouldn't want to be growing up as a teenage boy now. It'd be really tough.
It's a tougher world now to grow up, I think, than it was even when I was going. Is there even more of an importance about getting into an organisation like Only Boys Allowed, because it provides you that atmosphere where, you're not on your phone, you're not checking instant messaging to see if your friend is going to go on a Teams call at 7 o'clock. You are in the room, you're present.
You could live your life now on a screen. You can live your life now in a bedroom. You just could, and you couldn't when we first started Only Boys Allowed. It wasn't a thing.
No.
But now more than ever, get them out your bedroom, get them out your house, find a group of like-minded individuals that are going through the same issues, going through the same problems, but, like music, or like having great opportunities, or want to see the world a bit, or want to see things outside their valley or outside their local community. That's really important. And getting them together and giving these experiences and then making them sound great. And that's the last thing. Yeah. Yes, we want to sound great, but just getting them all together in a room and having these great experiences is the most important thing. And then you just see them flourish. You see them flourish in life, and then suddenly they go, "Oh, I can do this. There is opportunity out there. There's something we can do. There's something we can do, and I can leave this group of my mates now, and I can go and achieve something in my life as well." And I think that's just at the centre of everything.
I think it's a much tougher world to grow up now. So many influences online. I think mental health is something that's really come into its own in a good way, and that's something that organisations like Only Boys Allowed, I know, have put a lot of effort into making sure that everyone feels welcome.
We talk about it a lot more now. I mean, we deal with it, we talk about it, we know it's always been there, mental health, especially in young men. I was bullied massively as a teenager, especially, because I sang. I was fat, I sang, I was the perfect person to pick on at school, so when I was in year 7 at secondary school, I got a part in the school show. And looking back, it's probably the worst thing I could have done. Everyone else was kind of I could sing beautifully, so they put me in. But everyone else was kind of in year 10 and 11, and there was this kid who come in, and I sang, weirdly played the part of a grandfather, but anyway, I was the youngest person in it. And I think from that moment on, school was tough. School was really tough for me, and I still carried on singing because singing was something I loved to do. But I didn't have a group. I grew up just outside Birmingham. I didn't have the security that if I was in Only Boys Aloud then, I would have found people that were also going through the same thing as me. I was very much on my own. I would still sing because it was so vital. I could have given it all up at that point, because life was hard.
And how old were you?
So kind of 11, 12, 13, kind of that time.
Which is the age you can join Only Boys Aloud.
Exactly. So if I had had something like Only Boys Aloud then, my life would have been a lot easier. I didn't really tell my parents that I was getting picked on much. I just kept it to myself. So I was struggling personally with that, but my only kind of outlet was singing. I think that was which looking back was quite brave, because that was the one thing I was getting picked on for. But I was like, no, kind of like, screw you, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it was only until I went to sixth form college when I was kind of 15, 16, 17, and I did drama and I did music. I found my people then. That's when I kind of was happy with myself, and I thought, I can do this. This could be a profession for me. This is what I want to go and do at university. But I think if I found those people when I was a bit younger, when I was like kind of 13, 12, like Only Boys Aloud is now, I think my teenage years would have been much, much easier. So that now I think of that and my own personal experience of that, of why Only Boys Aloud is so important. And if there's a 12, 13-year-old boy that was me out there now who could join Only Boys Aloud, and we can be there for them now, and we can go, yeah, this is normal. This is how singing's normal. Wales is very different to where I grew up. I think with the whole, especially in Welsh language schools, you're encouraged to sing. You're encouraged to join an Eisteddfod. You're encouraged to be the star of the show. But where I grew up, that wasn't the case. Music was not at the forefront. I think sport was very much the forefront of everyone's mind. I was not good at sport. I loved watching sport, but I wasn't a particularly good sportsman. I remember one moment I was playing cricket and I dropped the ball, and the PE teacher shouted at me and called me a name. That was the level we were at, because I wasn't one of him. I wasn't a sporty person.
Yeah.
I was a music guy. So yeah, I lived through that, and I think if I'd been brought up in Wales, it might have been different. But I think if we're giving these boys that opportunity to be themselves and find themselves at that really difficult age of just becoming a teenager, then that's great.
So then what would you say now back to your 11-year-old self in Birmingham now? What would you say to him?
I'm very proud of him. I'm proud of him for keeping going. And I would say keep going, ignore the noise, because you're going to be here one day, and you're going to be singing in front of however a billion people watched the Olympic opening ceremony.
Yeah.
When I sang with Only Men Aloud, and I just hope some of those bullies watched that. I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure they didn't remember me, but that's the time I kind of go, yes, it's worth it, because you can have these incredible experiences in your life, and that's what I would tell that. That's what I would tell that boy.
And I guess, like all of us, you see alignments with your experience to boys who come through the door for Only Boys Aloud, and you're like, I can influence this. I can see this. I can help.
Hugely. I mean, there was one boy springs to mind. His mother rang us. It was when we started at 13, when we first started Only Boys Aloud, and there was one boy who was too young, but his mother rang and said, "My son is getting picked on constantly because he loves music and loves singing. He got put in a bin, one of those big school bins, and said, getting properly picked on." And Mum said, "Is there any chance he could join Only Boys Aloud? Because that's what he really wants to do." So we let him in a year early, and his life changed overnight.
I think I remember.
I mean, just the most amazing story. And suddenly his life was like, he suddenly went, "Oh, there are people like me out there. There are people that want to do this," and that's, and he's flourishing, absolutely flourishing now. So
yeah,
it's great. It's that's what's important. And I think because I've had that experience of being there and being that boy, can just affect what I do and affect their lives as well.
It's been magical to hear your story, and such a privilege to hear your optic of the entire thing. You're a good friend of mine. You've been great to me over the years as well. We ask all of our guests the same question at the end of the episode. Aloud has a play on words, right? You can do something quietly or you can do something aloud. You can also not be allowed to do something and you are allowed to do something. So
Clever, isn't it?
It's clever.
Word, yeah.
I didn't come up with it myself.
No.
In one sentence or one question, what does being allowed mean to you?
Oh, God, that's a big question. Being allowed means being allowed, spelt the other way, to do what you love, to find what your passion is, to find other people that want to do it as well, and to do it to a really high level. I think that's really, so to be accepted to do what you want to do, to love what you do, and to be brilliant at it.
I love that. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure. Hi, I'm Craig Yates, Creative Director of Aloud. Aloud isn't just a choir. It's a place where boys discover their voice, find their confidence, and build a sense of belonging. Every day I see young people transform before my eyes, shy, uncertain boys grow into confident, creative young men. For many of them, singing is more than music. It's a lifeline. It helps with mental health, it gives them confidence, and it shows them that they matter. That's the power of Aloud, giving every boy a voice and a place where they truly belong. But we can't do it alone. Your support helps us run workshops, cover fees, provide uniforms, and reach even more boys across Wales. Every donation, big or small, helps change a life. Join us. Help us give these young people the confidence, the friendship, and the joy that comes from singing. Because with Aloud, every voice counts. Donate today at aloud.cymru and be part of this incredible journey. Thank you.